breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news, Zach.
What am I? Hold on.
Mason
You want to do
Williams.
it? There you go. You
Mason
are
Williams.
a cat.
He's a cat.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about it, I guess, for a second here. Steven, you might have to, I don't know if they're going to do like a rapid reaction to that or something. If you have to hop off, let me know. Okay, yes. So Mason Williams just committed. Let's go ahead and there's an offseason need right there. There's your backup point guard, your developmental point guard, probably. I watched some of the tape.
Jackson State.
Stolen from Jackson State. Yes. The Mo Williams
got him to decommit from his dad, Zach. That's pretty big.
It's pretty good. Well, I will say Mason decommitted because he started getting bigger offers, Ole Miss, Memphis, Texas Tech. So the kid was rising in the rankings. Looking off the highlight tapes from over the summer, he played big teams like Prolific Prep. I think they played St. X. They played a lot of like national quality opponents, and he performed pretty well. I know he did well at the NBPA camp, but he's still, ranked outside the top 100. So we'll see if that shoots up now that he's committed to Kentucky. I'm sure it will, because some of that stuff goes. BB and Cam dropped it first. Give credit. Shout out to BB and Cam. Good eyes. I was on Do Not Disturb. I wasn't expecting that to.
And this is confirmed. There people are wondering if we just took the stuff in the chat. We do have this. We have this confirmed.
Yeah, I got a Joe Tipton notification for it, so it's all. And Jacob's been all over that there for the last 3 days.
I texted Jacob. That's who I texted to make sure. Yeah.
Jacob's been all over that one. So, I guess, Brandon, I'll just get your first initial thoughts on, I guess, Mason Williams joining. And is there any particular need in the portal that you're really looking for? Or maybe a couple of pieces that you really think, regardless of the retention of who returns and who leaves, anything in particular you're looking for there. But give me a little taste of Mason Williams if you've done any film search on him yet.
Mason Williams, I think that, inevitably outside of the fan base and heck, even within it to some extent, I mean, let's be blunt, it'll get made fun of a little bit, unfortunately, because he's not a top 100 guy. He was committed to Jackson State, but let's be realistic here, and this isn't just blue shaded glasses. He was committed to Jackson State because his NBA All-Star father is the coach there. So this is a guy that had other SEC offers. He was getting even more and more interest as things went along, and that is why he decommitted from his own father in order to open up his recruitment. Am I going to act like that he's going to come in and be the starter? No. Am I going to act like he's Darius Acuff or even Mo Williams Sr.? No, I'm not going to act like that. But we also have been, hoping and praying for a backup point guard. Well, and it's something I talked about a lot this past season, was like, hey, unfortunately, in the NIL era, in the portal era, it's harder than you think to recruit a backup, because why would I go somewhere to be a backup? Like, I can take money and go somewhere else and be a starter. Like, you can kind of play the musical chairs, and somebody's probably going to offer you to be a starter if you're of the quality of a player that would be a backup at Kentucky. That means you can be a starter somewhere that isn't all that bad. Well, a 4-star, 100-ish type player in the country, that is the type of guy who is probably willing to come in and for a year or two be your backup. This guy can come in and play 8 minutes a game as a freshman and be okay with it and be serviceable. He's also the son of a professional basketball player. Like, that's not a bad place to start in terms of development when you have somebody who, obviously has been around the game his whole life and has that sort of a pedigree. He's 6'2", 6'3". He's not a little guy. I think that he will be a serviceable backup point guard from day one, and that's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking to get in these positions, because it's just harder. Like, it's just really, really hard to have, like, oh, well, we have a guy that was a 4-year player in the Missouri Valley that was all conference as a senior, and he's going to come be a grad transfer at Kentucky. Like, that's just probably not going to happen. So you have to go get a guy like Mason Williams. So to me, this is a good backup point guard get. It's what everybody wanted. This is what you get. Now we'll move on to getting those stars, which I talked about are the important things.
Well, in theory, he can help Jasper kind of move back to a more natural position as well. If you think that Mason's ready from day one to step in and kind of be that backup point guard, then you can kind of at least see that line of thinking there too. Absolutely.
To answer the second part of that question in terms of the, what you're looking for in the portal, I mean, it's that star power, like I said, and I think that a lot of it, the conversation probably can't begin for real until you know what Jalen Lowe's doing. Like, do we have to go get a point guard? If not, and it's Jalen Lowe, then I think it really transitions to those 3-4 spots. Like, getting that Otega Owe replacement and upgrading there. And then I think that something that's been an issue for 2 seasons now is that I just don't think our 4-man has been good enough. When you look across college basketball this season, and it was a big deal going into last night's games, like how big college basketball has gotten. And you look at Yaxel Lindenborg, and you look at Caleb Wilson, and you look at Cameron Boozer. Like, these guys are skilled but huge 4-men. I think that's where you need to get your star power next season, is getting that stud 4 that can step out and shoot some threes, but also is going to help in the rebounding effort. You can throw it to it around the basket, and then getting that Otega Owe type of guy, again, a capable shooter who had probably more of a physical, get to the basket sort of athlete, freak 2-way guy, and then let your Colin Chandlers and your Cam Williams be your floor spacers. But I'm really looking at the 3 and 4 spots this offseason, and I think how you fill those, especially with the question mark of Jalen Lowe still looming, how you fill those is going to probably tell you to at least answer my question as to how the offseason went.
Yeah, I definitely think I agree with you on the forward spot for sure. I think you definitely want to upgrade that spot, and in turn, it'll just help take some of the pressure off Malachi as well, so he doesn't have to kind of carry the whole front court load, which it kind of felt like at times he had to, and maybe that's why he just kind of ran out of gas towards the end of the season. Steven, any overwhelming thoughts or overarching thoughts on Mason Williams, who I'm sure you're very familiar with already, or just any potential portal needs or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen his highlight tape. Looks good, as most highlight tapes do. They do make you look good. I did like one of these comments here that said, he loved that he's been around the game.
Yeah, that's no small thing.
I think that we've kind of had this position now 3 years in a row. Travis Perry and Jasper Johnson sort of occupied this 8 to 10 minute role that I guess he's going to play. I'll delegate this to you guys. Do you think is there a potential that he's better than that? Is there because I think like that's what's kind of sticking out to me, that we're bringing in another freshman guard, kind of like Travis, kind of like Jasper was not supposed to be a point guard, but he ended up having to take on that role. Should I have more optimism about Mason Williams, that he could develop throughout the season to be a much better version than what those two had been?
Well, you might have to, unfortunately. And I mean, to be completely honest, like, I've never seen the kid play a full basketball game in person, so I honestly can't answer that question, just to be frank with you. I mean, I think that Travis Perry was an undersized point guard, and like you said, he was matched up against Mark Sears, an All-American at times. So like, he was kind of thrown into an unfair spot. Jasper Johnson was asked to play point guard, and he's not a point guard. So if this kid is actually more of a pure point guard, he's 6'2". He's listed at 170. Before the film I was looking at, like, he looks bigger than that. He looks a little bit stronger than that. So maybe he is a little bit more tailor-made, can be a little bit more prepared to take on that role. And maybe Pope is still going to go get another backup point guard. Maybe he wants, like, he basically had 3. The plan was to have 3 of them last year, and they were all lefties. One of them decommitted. Jasper ended up not being a point guard, and Jalen Lowe got hurt. So maybe he goes out and tries it and gets a third guy. Whether if Jalen Lowe comes back or if they go out and get another PG1, then you maybe try and find another backup who's, kind of at the same level as Mason Williams and can play the same amount of minutes, or maybe you can try and insulate that a little bit more and bring in more guys. But I guess that would be my answer to that question. I don't know, Brandon, if you have any different thoughts on that.
Yeah, to me, my answer would be is that, to be frank, you mentioned Travis Perry and Jasper Johnson. Neither one of those guys are point guards, in my opinion. Like,
Travis Perry was not a point guard. He's just small. He was 5'10".
Perry is a catch and shoot threat, and Jasper Johnson, yeah, he's good with the ball in his hands, but he's a shoot first, score first kind of individual playmaker. From what I have seen of Mason Williams, he is a point guard who is going to distribute and handle the ball and get you into offense and facilitate. So to me, that's why you should have, if you need to have optimism about your backup point guard, to me, that's where I would have some optimism, is that I think for the first time, your backup point guard is a point guard.